Talk about what that schedule looks like for you in rehab, even right now or during season. I think it's kind of comparable, right? I've done that
Yeah, no,
myself.
it's going
Talk
to be
about what
pretty
that
similar.
schedule looks like for you.
Yeah, so I mean, currently, so I got surgery August 30th. So I have been in the complex in Sarasota, which is Southwest Florida, for probably around like 5 months now.
Yeah,
So for me, it's had its ups and downs. So getting surgery, obviously that takes time. It's not like you just snap your fingers and you're in the operating room. Obviously, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of due diligence through the process of what has to be done. Who's going to do it, when, how, where, all these logistical things. So, for me, the struggle was, for me, honestly, throughout the whole rehab process, wasn't getting surgery, being in pain, all this other stuff. It was mainly like the 3 weeks I had to wait getting surgery, like for surgery, because I want to get the start.
right.
Let's go, let's go. Like, let's get the start the road back. But and at that point, it's your legs kind of limited because you already are hurt rolling around.
Right.
Like, you have a diagnosis, you know what I mean? So what you
Yeah,
can do is limit. Yeah,
you
what you
can't
can't
touch
do is
upper.
literally. So what you can do is limited. So at that point, I'm honestly just lifting gripless lower, which isn't very fun. But if that's all I can do, that's all I can do. And if
Hack squat king, dude.
that's what I'm saying, like if I'm going to show up and do it, and what I mean, I don't get out of the hotel or wherever I was at the time. It's by all means, I'd rather spend time at the complex than sitting in my room watching Netflix all day. That's just how I am, I guess. But
Yep.
so the beginning of rehab was pretty easy, not really easy, but just really monotonous day in and day out of doing the same thing every day, just being sling bound. You can't really do much, so your day is going to be pretty similar. Where wake up at around 7:30, go to the field, try to eat breakfast with your offhand, which you eventually learn the life hacks of it, how to do it with one hand. Go to rehab, do an hour or two of that. Once you get to the point where you're lifting, it's lifting with the sling,
Yep.
which isn't easy. So again, you're just making the most of what, trying to get as good as you can or do as much as you can with what you got. So for me, it was a lot of, you brought up the hack squat, so that was the big majority of the lower half work, at least being able to load it, because again, just had shoulder surgery and I'm stuck in a sling. So I mean that's a big component of it. But now being almost 3 months removed from surgery, it's things are finally starting to click. Probably going to throw around the a couple months from now. So I'm just kind of waiting, because again, it's a year, so there's time to do that. And for me, it's I want to have complete function, complete strength, and
Yeah.
everything before I can even start that process, because I don't want to jump to it too soon. Because the reason I elected to get surgery the way I did instead of trying to rehab it more, because it's one of those injuries where you can push it off a little bit and just
For
stress
sure.
test it basically,
Yeah.
is just again with the timing of it, because I get August 30th, it's year to date. 13 months is the end of September, which is usually around when all the affiliate seasons end. The odds of me going out and playing those last 3 weeks is going to be pretty slim, just as
Yep.
it is. It's just I was to assume, if I do, great. If not, then you know, then you just hit the off season. So for me, it was I really wanted the ability to have a full off season
Yeah.
post surgery, to where I give myself even more of a cushion of time. Like, so if a hiccup happens, if velo doesn't come back by month
Right. Right.
13, but like month 15, it might. That's something where having an off season gives you the time to do that, where you're not stressing about how well you're pitching in a game, or like, hey, my slider isn't the same, or whatever factor it may be that you want to improve on. So I mean, that's kind of why I took that decision the way I did. But looking back now, honestly, like if this is the fix to all the previous arm injuries I've had, forever, like every shoulder bug ever, then by all means, like, shit, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not like, if it had to be done, it had to be done. So in my case, which I was told it did, so kind of just luckily now in the point where stuff's starting to get cooler, I guess, where every day, might start getting newer stuff once in a week, kind of taking the training wheels off, back to normal function. So I mean, really looking forward to a whole like beginning of throwing. It's gonna go, obviously it's gonna be a grind. I'm not gonna be moving the way I want to move. I'm not gonna be feeling the way I want to move. But again, it's just that time component where luckily I set myself up with the decisions I've made to give myself the best, I guess, route I could.
I
You
think
know
it's
what I mean?
important to note too
As
that
far
like
as time.
age plays a massive role in that because you'll see guys with UCL tears that it all depends on the percentage. You know, I knew a guy this year that he's my age, right? He's 25, 26, and he's got a 70% tear. And instead of electing to go the year-long route or the 14-month route or whatever it may be, where he misses all of 25, right? Or 24, sorry, or he missed all of 24, it's like I may not have that time, right? So I have to rehab this and get back as soon as I can to prove my worth right now. Whereas you're in a fortunate position to where you can take that time. And when you come back, you can be your best self and you kind of get a break. It's going to be a nice, like, break from the game almost. And there's going to be a reacclimation process, but you get more of a perspective on the game as well, being in the position you're in. So I think in the long run it'll be good for you. But there's so many variables that go into the decision on surgery, rehab, what that looks like, what process you choose, whether it's the internal brace for some guys' elbows or the route that you went where you're cleaning up your shoulder and whatnot. Like there are multiple ways to skin a cat there, and a lot of it depends on where you're at in your career and where your standing is with the organization that you're with. So I think that's a really my schedule was very similar, right? You show up by 9, you're probably out by 1, and you're back at your condo or hotel room or whatever it may be by 1:30. And that's part of the reason I decided to start I decided to start my graduate degree this year is because I thought I was going to miss the entire year with a stress fracture in my back. And I couldn't do the whole Netflix and video games for 9 hours a day, or probably closer to 10, right? I couldn't do it. So I was like, I'm gonna need something to do to stay productive because I'm gonna go crazy, right? So it is rehab is a brutal schedule. It is very different from the in-season schedule where for a 7 o'clock game, you're probably at the park by 12, maybe even 11:30 if you're bringing lunch to the field. And you're not home until 10:30, 11, and then you're probably staying up for a couple hours, go to bed, wake up, go to the field, right? And you're living at the ballpark. Rehab is significantly different. It's a significantly different mental stress too, where there are days where you're kind of left wondering kind of what your purpose is, right? And that's a really deep thought, and I hate to bring that into this, but I mean it's true, man. The one job that you're supposed to have, the one job that you're supposed to be good at, you can't do, right? So
No,
you're
yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Because that was the crazy thing too. Like, because again, you're hanging out with rehab guys.
yeah,
You're not hanging out with the guys you knew at the affiliate or whatever. You're hanging out with other guys who are either, depending on when they got surgery, either like pretty much back to normal, return to throw, or post op where they're getting surgery. I mean, that was the thing too. Like we'd watch playoff baseball, and then me being 4 days out of surgery, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm just like, the thought and like just visually, for this is just for me. I don't know if other guys have had the same thing, but just visually watching somebody throw or do any like athletic overhead movement made me just like almost puke. Like I
yeah.
got sick because it was the idea of like watching somebody else doing it and then thinking of the thought of, okay, me raising my arm
No, that's
like
real.
this and trying to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just, that's the crazy thing too, is like that. But I love the point that you brought up of earlier about just kind of the complex and how it is. But then again, like when I brought up that I had to wait 4 weeks to get surgery. Luckily, though, guys from the year before that got TJ towards the end of the year, those guys were getting towards the end of the rehab process. So it's like you can see how certain guys, you know how seriously they took it or whatever, just the quality of the work they were doing, of like just the progress that we've made, because okay, I can see where I'm at because I'm at where they were. So I understand the beginning of it, but now not being able to understand my own end, but at least seeing these guys do it, where a lot of them ended up pitching in the fall league to get more innings. So it's like oh shit, like it worked. So it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of just like a positive affirmation, I guess, of just visually seeing like these guys also made it out and ended up being better. So it's more so like takes the nerves out of, or you trying to stress and force it, like I need it versus just relaxing. And then too, because I've caught myself a couple of times just with the point you made, where it's like some days you just don't have it,
Yeah.
of like coming in where it's just you're doing relatively the same stuff a lot of the days in a row, depending on where you're at,
Kind of
in
end up
that
checking the
process.
box.
But you know what I mean? So it's some days like you might want to check the box, but it's just how well can you do it every single day, day in and day out? Because, for me mentally, I don't like it. Like if I like I've had one of those days before and I come home and I'm like, I wasted the time just to sit here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have nothing else to do.
Right.
And I went through the same kind of thing that you did where I have all this time. What am I going to do? So luckily in the same boat as you, getting back into school, finishing the last year, get the degree.
Mhm.
I have the time to do so. But even before, doing that decision of when I wanted to complete it or how much classes, all that, kind of stuff, I was thinking about random stuff. Like I was about to buy a guitar. I was about to get a fishing
You're just
pole. You
trying
know
to
what I mean?
find new hobby,
Just
dude. It'll
the
test you.
random things just to get you out. Cause it's like again, like I was a golf guy. Like I don't try to do well. I just like being out there, being outside. But then even then, like I can't do it. So it's like, it's
Right.
got to be something simple where physically I'm not going to burn myself out.
It'll test the person you are outside the game. And that's really tough. When you start to find out just how much of you is revolving around the game itself, it's like that's a tough thing to kind of come to grips with. So that's a good point. And I guess that's a good segue into, man, that's part of the reason we're doing this, right? That's part of the reason we want to be here. We want to share our stories and whatnot, but this is something that you and I can do, right? We're freaking family, dude. Like this is something we can do outside the park that, we're excited to do. We're excited to be here. We want to do this.